Good day. My name is Joanna Leone, and I am the Membership Coordinator here at WERC. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join us for today's presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded and all participants are in listen-only mode. The information discussed in today's session represents the views of the individuals and does not constitute legal advice or the views of WERC. You should consult with your organization's leadership and legal counsel as needed for your specific situations. At the end of today's presentation, we will have a question and answer period. We will utilize the chat box and question area located at the bottom of the screen or along the right-hand side, depending on your settings. So without further ado, I would like to turn the presentation over to today's presenter, Dan.
Thank you, Joanna, and welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. We have, I believe, a very interesting and exciting topic to discuss, specifically addressing how robotic micro-fulfillment, artificial intelligence, and manual processes will transform fulfillment, specifically around the issues of the growth in e-commerce. So speakers today, I'll introduce myself and then Bobby can introduce himself. I've been at Lucas Systems for just about 20 years, senior consultant. I've been involved in warehouse automation projects of many, many different types over, frankly, I've been in the business for about 35 years. So happy to share my thoughts and ideas with your group. Bobby?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Hi, everybody. I'm Bobby Clay. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Fabric. Some of you may have heard of Common Sense Robotics. We started out as that and we rebranded about a year ago. So I've been with Fabric about a year. I've been in the tech industry almost as long as Dan. And from Fabric, we are focused on enabling traditional retailers to make on-demand e-commerce both possible and profitable. And we do that with a concept called micro-fulfillment. So anxious to talk to you guys about that today.
Great. And for those of you maybe not familiar with Lucas, Lucas provides warehouse automation, focusing on making work faster, better for DC associates. Where we play mostly is where people are still out there doing what they have to do. So we provide solutions that are very complementary to automation, as we still are focused on making people's jobs as easy and as good as possible. And today we'll talk a lot about how those two pieces, the high automation robotics that Fabric brings to the table and the people enablement that Lucas focuses on, can work together, providing great benefits. So as an agenda, we're going to be talking about how current e-commerce surge is accelerating the evolution of last mile fulfillment and how modular micro-fulfillment technology can coexist with AI optimized manual processes in stores, DCs, and local fulfillment centers. The decentralization of fulfillment provides an opportunity for warehouse professionals to apply their expertise to a new set of local operational challenges. So we'll go through what is the evolution of the distribution networks? What are some of the local fulfillment options and challenges that we're finding? And how can we apply some technologies to solve some of those problems? Okay. I'll turn it over to Bobby to talk a little bit about some of the trends that we've seen in e-commerce and specifically in different industries. Bobby?
Yeah, so the e-commerce tipping point, we've been talking for some time about when will we reach that point, right? And so I think back not that long ago, just 6 months ago, we were all talking about how Amazon had forever changed the retail landscape, right? To the point in which consumer expectations are really headed toward, I should be able to order anything I want, and I should be able to get it same day, and in some cases maybe even get it within an hour or two. And so, 6 months, just 6 months later, with the COVID experience, still going on. One of the questions is what's changed, and I would say, at least as it applies to e-commerce, in many respects, kind of, everything's changed. And we look at the growth rates here. I mean, the e-commerce adoption cycle in many people believe, it has been accelerated by years just in the last 6 months. So it's not clear whether it's 2 years or 4 years or 5 years, but it's clearly accelerated dramatically. And so, on-demand e-commerce, right? This idea of same day, even 1 hour has just literally exploded. As you can see on this chart, and and specifically, in the grocery vertical, right? Even the late adopters are now doing online ordering for grocery. My mom, who's almost 80 years old, she orders her groceries on Instacart now, right? And she thinks it's really cool. She loves it. She wished she had tried it, years ago. So, will these late adopters go back to in-store shopping, when COVID's over, whenever that is? I think most people believe that, some will, but many really like it and will continue to do it. So I think that the net is, on-demand e-commerce is clearly here to stay, and the growth rate will probably slow post-COVID. But we're going to continue to see really healthy growth in e-commerce.
Okay, I agree. My father's 94 and he's ordering online. It's unbelievable. In fact, he told me today he took his trip today to Walmart where they load him up. So let's look at how has this created or caused an evolution of our distribution fulfillment networks. So in early stages, or in more traditional environment, we have our regional distribution centers, which normally are replenishing retail operations, whether it's grocery or other types of retail. So you've got lots of regions, and some of that is consolidated because of the rise in transportation. But pretty much they were designed to replenish stores and handle a little bit of perhaps smaller orders, some parcel orders, emergency orders, things like that. But all of a sudden, along comes the need to change that. So in some places, some retailers have started to separate e-com from store replenishment operations, often into separate fulfillment centers, or moved out to 3PLs, or even some I've heard are pushed to manufacturers where, we've talked to some of our customers where they were doing fulfillment for Amazon, and Amazon is pushing more back to them to handle more of the direct to customer because they don't want the product coming through their warehouse because they're so overwhelmed. So the goal, of course, has always been to meet that Amazon challenge of faster fulfillment, originally 2-day, now, in fact, many places, same day. So the fulfillment network started to change. So all of a sudden, you've gone from a regional distribution center to with multi-channel stores. You've also seen the growth of dark stores. I've specifically seen a number of these happening in places like Bed Bath & Beyond, which is shutting down retail stores and converting many of them into what they call dark store fulfillment operations. In fact, I just read an article the other day. There was a Sam's Club. Somebody was rehired after having been laid off due to COVID. When they got back, their job has changed because the store was no longer a retail store. It was a dark store fulfillment center. This week, I read from a real estate firm, CBRE, said that projects started or completed since 2017 have transformed 14 million square foot of former retail space into 15.2 million square feet of industrial space, most of it for e-com distribution. So, you've got a combination of dark stores, you've got some, localized fulfillment. Localized fulfillment centers tend to be larger, use more automation than dark stores because they're designed from the ground up for more efficient picking, packing, and shipping. They're also much more expensive and time consuming to build. For instance, Kroger, which was one of the earliest and one of the largest grocery companies, of course, first started to announce its dedicated fulfillment operations with automation called Ocado And that was announced in 2018, and they're just now getting to those, starting to see them opening up. Dark stores are smaller than local fulfillment centers. They are, again, set up for e-com only, but they're not really set up for the automation for the most part. So a lot of them today are still processing these fulfillments manually. Okay, so getting that to the customer. So Target says that fulfilling e-com orders from stores for pickup is 90% cheaper than from a DC. But in-store picking is still a loss leader for most retailers since it's free in most cases. So the retailer is absorbing the cost of in-store picking. This avoids shipping and packaging from fulfillment centers, but picking is a higher cost in the store than in the fulfillment center. So the immediate challenge is to figure out how to improve the efficiency of in-store picking. So what are some of the challenges that we see? Well, first of all, store layouts and product slotting are determined in a store by totally different factors than what you would be doing when you lay out a distribution centers. They're not looking at picking efficiency. They're looking at, obviously, point of sale and things that the consumers are going to be concerned with, product families, things like that. Small format urban stores may not be able to devote space in order to assemble orders or to make it more efficient. There are inventory tracking and accuracy challenges with the fact that you've also got a mix, of shoppers. So how do you also handle the fact that you're still going to have, if it's not a dark store, you're going to have retail shoppers still coming in that store. And one of the challenges that I've definitely seen is, how do you run a cart down a narrow aisle in a store and not affect people who are actually there to shop? So, you don't want to turn off the customers who are still coming into your brick and mortar. So really some significant challenges. So let's talk about some strategies utilized in distribution centers, which are now being applied to in-store fulfillment. Okay, so first of all, and this is what I saw in my local grocery store, first of all, is I could place an order for pickup and they would give that order, either a piece of paper or a small RF gun, to a order picker. And that order picker basically was shopping exclusively for my order. And they dedicated one of their back rooms for a place. So I would walk by that back room and there's a bunch of grocery carts back there with people's orders waiting for them to come to the curb for pickup. So that was pretty much the first iteration of, a place the order online or on the phone, and then go pick it up. Now that's obviously a loss because they're putting labor in, which normally wouldn't have been there. So how do you start to think about making it more efficient? Well, one of the things that we've done in warehouses that you could use in this environment that I've seen somewhat deployed is zone picking. So instead of going out and doing your whole shopping, split the order. Have some people do the dry goods, some people do the frozen goods. In this particular case, the example is, again, taking portions of the store, breaking it up, and shopping in those areas for each of those people. So you could put 2 people onto the order. And then what you would need to do is create a consolidation process where those pieces of the order could then come together and be consolidated, ready for pickup or shipment. And we could use some technologies which have been traditionally used in these operations, like put walls. It could be a modified put wall depending on the size and space that you have. Now, the next step is to try to make that a little more efficient. So one concept that we've used at Lucas is something called 2-stage picking. And 2-stage picking is you have a process where instead of going out and picking every item, you might have a group of low velocity or products that are in hard to reach places. For instance, in a grocery store, it's the items that are on the cards hanging above the aisle. Well, you don't want to, that takes extra effort. So if you have the ability to pull down some of that based on what your knowledge is in terms of your orders, you have the opportunity to save some time. And we've utilized this in many warehouses to do more batch and consolidation. The next step beyond that is to actually batch pick. So now I don't want to go out and pick one order at a time. I want to pick many orders at a time. That was where you're going to start to see real big savings in walk time. But again, you have to design carts that will allow you to have enough cubic space on them to handle the size of the orders. And then you have to have a process that's well-vetted process in place to reconsolidate them, right? So a step beyond the normal batch is to do something with optimization. So when you create your batch, for instance, that cart we showed a minute ago had 9 orders on it. Well, if I choose which 9 orders I put on the cart carefully, I should be able to reduce the amount of walk time that I do. And this is something that at least Lucas has done with lots of warehouses today, is creating something, we call it dynamic work optimization. The idea behind that is to look at the total walk time anticipated in each order and match up orders so that you have more commonality between them, thus reducing walk time to fulfill all of them. Okay? And we've applied different types of technology to do this. So you could do it with RFID scanning displays. You could obviously use voice to direct it, and in some cases even provide perhaps some vision capability. You can, instead of mounting a tablet on the cart, you can use the new breed of glasses that are starting to show up. So modular automation is the final step. And this is where you're starting to use some goods to picker technologies. And I'm going to let Bobby talk about that. So fitting it all together.
Okay, so, on-demand e-commerce, this idea of being able to, deliver orders, do it within an hour, and do it profitably. That's what the big challenge is. And to do that, we've got to do some fundamentally different things. And so dark stores and micro fulfillment fall into that category. And so the key thing that these things solve is, if you think about it, to do it profitably and to be able to do it within 1 hour, there are 2 variables that you've got to control. One is you've got to do it locally. You can't do it out in the distribution center, and you've got to automate it. And so that's where this concept of dark stores and micro fulfillment come into play. So micro fulfillment is what Fabric, the company, was built to do, right? And so it's the concept of having small scale automated warehouses that can fit in the back of the store or adjacent to the store or nearby in a dark store. And so and our system was designed from the ground up to do that. And there are really 3 key design principles that we had for our micro fulfillment center. The first is its speed, right? You've got to be able to pick the order and deliver it within an hour. You've got to have operational flexibility. So flexible in terms of a solution being able to scale down such that it can actually fit in the back of the store. Our solution can fit in as little as 4,000 square feet with a 12 to 14 foot clear ceiling height. The second is it had to have operational flexibility, right? You need to be able to start, if think about it, if you're a grocer, right? You may have ambitions of having 1,000 orders a day, but when you start out, you might only have 100 orders a day, right? So the solution is built to be elastic, right? You want to start out with 1,000 orders, great. With 100 orders, great. You move up to maybe 200 or 300 orders. You know what? Our system is very scalable. You just add more robots, right? And then the other thing is, obviously we need cost reduction out of this, right? And so it's very important that the solution give you scalable unit economics, right? So whether I'm doing 100 orders a day or whether I'm doing 1,000 orders a day, I should be able to get significant and comparable, unit economics out of that. So in the diagram, you'll see this is what the Fabric Micro Fulfillment Center looks like. There are essentially five areas. At the top, you'll see the shelving area. That's the racking. And those are the totes where the inventory is held. Inside those aisles are where you see the lift robots, right? So these are very intelligent AI-driven devices, and they can move up and down, side to side, and they can maneuver around one another within the aisle. So within a given aisle, for instance, there can be lots and lots of robots that can all maneuver around one another. Then there's the ground robots. So those are the ones you see in the middle. Those are on the floor. They're free roaming, and you can't probably tell from the diagram, but they actually go underneath the cube, the shelving and the totes. And so the lift robot grabs the tote off the shelf, comes down and hands it to the ground robot, and then the ground robot takes it to the touch point. Touch point is where the human is. From the touch point, both the picking of the order, where the items come out of the inventory tote, they go into an order tote at that point, and then they're taken by the ground robot over to the terminal for dispatch. That same touch point is very flexible. What you'll see in most microfilament sensors is you'll have somewhere from 3 to 6 touch points, and they're multi-purpose. They're not only for doing the picking, but they're also doing for the decanting. When the inventory is coming in and we're putting it out into the cube, what we call robot land. And I think we're on to the next slide. So, we believe there's really an opportunity for what we call a new era of fulfillment, which is really a combination of automation as well as optimized manual processes. On the automation front, like the MFC, automated goods to persons technology, I see really 4 main things that can bring to bear. First, and the obvious thing is speed, right? You can literally order, you can pick orders in minutes. A typical grocery order, which is like 40 to 50 items. We could, the fabric solution can do that in 5 minutes. Obviously, you get the labor arbitrage, the efficiency of automation. Robots don't get tired. They don't have to take lunch breaks and things like that. Another key thing that a lot of people don't think about is accuracy, right? So our system always knows with 100% accuracy what item is in what tote and exactly where it is. And that's because it's all within our system, and we don't have customers or employees in the aisles, taking things off the shelves, right? So we always know what's in the inventory. And so you literally get total accuracy on your orders. If it shows up, if the e-commerce app says you have it, and it winds up in your order tote. And the other thing that I think a lot of people don't think about is particularly, well, we probably think about it now with COVID if you've been in the grocery store lately. It minimizes people in the aisles, right? So it preserves that customer experience that interestingly, that's the one big advantage that retailers in general and grocers specifically that they have over Amazon, right? They have their own stores, right? So this is a great way to preserve the customer experience that most people expect. So with that, Dan, I will turn it over to you to talk about the other half of the equation, which is the optimized manual process.
Right. So so everybody should be getting the understanding here that it is obviously very advantageous to have the vast majority of your products being fulfilled in a micro-fulfillment robotics solution like what Bobby was talking about with fabric. Because obviously all of those things are outstanding, the timing, the speed, the accuracy. But you get to a point where I guess it may not be totally practical to have 100% of your items. In a typical grocery store, you've got somewhere in the range of, depending on the size of the store, between 15,000 and even some cases more products that you're offering to customers. Many of them are considered low velocity or perhaps not, as easy to put into a robotic module as others. I think of going to the store and buying a mop. Not sure that you're going to want to put that into the module. I guess you could, but it may not be practical. You've also got your frozen products and your meat products, and sometimes you have fresh baked products. So the idea being, you look at a combination of utilizing a robotic module with also fulfilling orders from other places in the store, minimizing the in-store inconvenience, but at the same time, maximizing your throughput with a vetted solution of manual or batch or smart manual picking, I'll call it, like we discussed before, which then can marry up those products that are still picked out of the store with the products that are picked in the module in a way that basically allows you to do, I'd say, batch picking to cart like we were describing before, and then putting it all together at the fulfillment side up here with perhaps a put wall solution so that you have an easy way to consolidate and then pack, and then delivering all of that in a way that gives you, again, super high accuracy, super high customer service, but something that can be modular and grow. So idea being, get it to the truck as fast as you can, get it to the customer, and keep that customer really happy. So I think if I can kind of review what we've got here as kind of a, all told, we've presented a concept of crawl, walk, run, a modular additive technology components where you can grow into, the ultimate, having the robotics and be able to handle your e-com in a way that maintains your highest accuracy and your highest customer service levels, minimizing your labor to support a very highly efficient process, minimizing intrusion into your retail space as much as you possibly can, and again, keeping your customer service levels at very high. So with that, I think I will open the floor to questions.
Hi, everyone. Just as a reminder, if you do have questions, please use the question area or the chat functionality located at the bottom of your screen.
Okay.
I am not seeing any questions. We do have Dan's.
Yeah, I have a couple that I've seen coming through. So,
Perfect.
So one of the questions that came up is for Bobby: how is fabric different from the Ocado technology that Kroger is using?
Yeah, good question. The Ocado product is a really, really nice, elegant, robotics and even AI solution similar to ours in that manner. But they're really designed to solve two different problems. The fabric product is designed to do this micro fulfillment thing, right? Which is in store, back of store, really small, 1 hour delivery. And so you'll see our solutions in back of store, in a dark store, in near close to the customer. The Ocado solution is essentially a regional kind of solution, a distribution center kind of model. Where you will see them is now out in the DC. They're typically very, very large, whereas we can go as low as 4,000 square feet. You're talking, 500,000 square feet distribution centers. The technology is actually very similar, but it's built to be in the DC. It's not built for, this idea of on demand. It's more of a next day delivery kind of model, at the distribution center. And in fact, whereas I call what we do micro fulfillment, a good way to sort of categorize them as sort of macro fulfillment, right? It's DC, it's much bigger, much larger. And by the way, far more, it's a magnitude difference in terms of investment.
For sure. Okay. I have one more question that came up, and that was, how would the micro fulfillment systems and manual systems integrate? So how would you put these together technically? and of course, I'm not going to go into a full technical discussion on it, but the idea would be that orders would come in to the systems, and then there would be a process in one of the systems to determine what gets filled out of where. So there's a splitting process. This is something that Lucas has done for years with our intelligent order, execution systems. So we take an order could be, 30, 40, 50, 100 line items, and we break it up into units of work. And then those units of work then are doled out, some to the robotic module, some to the pick the card or manual processes, and then come together at the end for the packing and the shipment. So systems basically are handling that and tying it all together. And then actually you can see, you can get statuses. There's lots of opportunity to really tie it all together. You get a lot of information out of it. If there's any other questions. No.
I don't see any further questions. So with that, we will thank everybody for all their questions. Both you'll see Bobby and Dan's email on the screen. If you have any further questions, you can reach out to them directly. And on behalf of everyone at WERC, we want to thank you for participating in today's webinar, and to our presenters for presenting the wonderful presentation. We ask that you check Work's website for future webinars, and on behalf of everyone, thank you again and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a good day.
Yes, thank you, guys.